Okay, welcome and thank you for joining our webinar on viewing the latest features releases for Sage Intacct. My name is Kim Anselmo and I will help facilitate our webinar today. Before we get started, here are a few tips on using the Zoom platform so you can engage with our presenters and have the best experience possible. You should see a Zoom toolbar with icons for ask a question, chat, and raise your hand. You can use the ask a question or chat to submit a question or a comment. If you need any assistance during the webinar, please click on the raise your hand button and I will connect with you as soon as I can to help out. We do encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation and we are going to do our best to answer them all as we can. If we do not get to your question, we will follow up with you personally following this presentation as well. Next slide. And if you do experience any audio issues, you can access your audio settings and test your audio when you're already in the meeting. At the bottom left-hand corner, the Zoom meeting toolbar, you'll find either the headphone or microphone logo. To join audio, mute or unmute respectively. Click Join Audio to choose to connect your computer audio or dial into the meeting with a phone. And so once your audio is connected, click mute to disable the audio or unmute and enable your audio as well. And then also just let you know, we will be sharing the recording of this webinar 72 hours after we complete it. And you will also get a copy of the presentation that we're going through. And finally, today's webinar does qualify for CP credits. To receive your credits, you must actively respond to each polling question and stay on for the duration of the webinar. If you do have any difficulty answering any of the poll questions or didn't go through for some reason, you can email elevate@armaninollp.com with your name, date of your session, and along with your polling question, and we'll be sure that you get your CP credits for this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Schimberg and Jennifer Jensen.
Thank you, Kim, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to share with you the new release. I am Michelle Schimberg. I am a director in the consulting practice at Armanino. I am passionate about helping our clients use Sage Intacct. So I'm really excited to be able to help you. And Jenny?
I am Jennifer Jensen. I'm a manager here in the consulting mid-market team. I've been working in the industry now for about 10 years and working with Intacct now about 3.5. And I'm really excited to share with you guys some of the new updates that have been released from Intacct. All right, some learning objectives for today. Identify new release features of your solution. Demonstrate the new user experience in navigation. Manage the latest release of the solution to maximize its potential. And this is our agenda that we're going to go through. All of the different modules are going to be listed here. So we're going to start with company and admin. All right, and I'll turn it over to you, Michelle.
Thanks, Jenny. All right, so first up, sandbox management, coming soon to existing instances and available in new instances. You will be able to add, refresh, delete, and edit sandboxes without submitting a support ticket. So that's pretty exciting. And we start with our first polling question. Kim?
You got it.
Are you a multi-entity shared environment? Yes, only with one entity. Yes, with multiple entities. No, which means you don't have a top level, or I don't know.
Great, we got answers coming in. And I will go ahead and close the poll here in 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, so it says yes. We've got a couple that are no. Most of you are yes with only one entity, or with multiple entities, excuse me. So in this release, as we've talked in previous releases, they are transitioning all companies of Intacct will ultimately be a multi-entity with a top level. And what that means to you is for instances that do not currently have a top level, you will be filing a case with community to convert over. But the benefits of a multi-entity shared environment is that you can add entities to your company, share accounts and dimensions, and automatically trigger intercompany transactions. So if you currently have different, maybe you have a QuickBooks company or something, you would be able to add that to your Intacct instance. It works with multiple base currencies. You can do consolidated reporting, and you can restrict users to a department and an entity if you are a multi-entity organization. The time frame for this was in release 2, they released it if you had GL, AP, AR, cash management, and time and expense. Coming in release 4 is order entry, purchasing, and inventory. And in the future will be organizations that are using projects, contracts, and Salesforce integrations. If you are a single entity, you will need to go and name and identify your entity. You will find that information in your company setup configuration, then company, and scroll down to the single entity migration, identify an ID and your entity name. Okay, another new thing is nonprofits that want to use traditional fund accounting. Before this release, many of them were having to use the class instance and force balancing and manually do the intercompany transactions. You can now use an entity. They have allowed you to create an entity for traditional fund accounting so that the inter-entity transactions will happen automatically. And for those of you that have already been using this, because I know they started releasing this to folks a while ago, you'll need to go into your company information, set yourself to say traditional fund accounting, and you'll need to go to the entity that will and set it as a fund, and then you will not be charged for that entity. In this release, they've added the ability to add your own currency. So you'll have to enable currencies in your company, and then here are the steps to actually add that currency. So if you have a currency that currently is supported by Sage Intacct, you can now add it to your instance. All right, time and expense. This is exciting. Time and expense, they've changed the permissions for time and expense. And what they've allowed now is employee users can add expense reports for other employees. So if you're an administrator, if you have an employee user who wants to add the expenses for other employees, like their boss or maybe other department, you don't want to have employee users for everybody and you want one person to add all of them, they are now able to do that. So the permissions that have changed are here in the gold box. So you'll need to go and give that employee user those permissions. All right, next polling question for accounts payable. Okay, the following users can approve AP payments. Mark all that apply.
This is something, Michelle, that I'm very excited about.
I know.
I know a
you're
lot of
burying the
clients
lead
are
by
going to be
doing
happy.
All right, yeah, this is really exciting.
Great. I'll leave it open for just a few more moments. Okay, closing in 3, 2, and 1.
All right. So everybody got business right. That's correct. Many people thought employee, warehouse, project managers, and platform. Prior to this release, the answer was no, only business users could approve payments. However, they've increased everyone's permissions and they've expanded permissions to all users for approving payments. In order to give an employee user permissions to approve payments, an administrator needs to go and give them the ability to list and then select the level based on your approval levels. So you can, if you have previously not been doing this, you can set up value approval levels at different levels and define a policy for approvals. The new AP advances page. So the AP advances page was very limited prior to this release. And what they've done is they've brought it up to the rest of the pages, which is great. Now you can track where an advance is within the workflow by referencing the state. So you'll see here in box 1, you've got advanced paid, you've got partial applied, in process, and draft. So you'll know the state of them. You can view the columns showing the payment amount, total applied, total due, aka the amount that's available to apply to a payment or to an invoice. You can create a new advance from the list list using the add button. That's very exciting. I know a lot of people were asking for that. You can access standard view and create custom views, like as you can on many other list views in the instance. And then you can filter on the fly using advanced filters. When you're viewing advance, they have brought it up to the screens that you've seen on your bills and things like that. You now have a summary header that shows the state, the total advance paid, and the amount applied. They've also added the posting details tab to include other transaction, currently included with other transaction types. So it's on other screens, but it shows how the payment was posted to the general ledger. And then they've added an applied bills tab list so that you can see where they were applied. Additional advance changes, you can now do multi-currency advances, and they have consolidated the permissions for advances. So this does require action if you are using advances. They have combined the AP, the pay in advance, and the posted payments tabs in your permissions and called it just AP advances. And they've added a tab for edit and delete. So you'll want to make sure that you edit that for any of the users that are doing advances. Another exciting thing is you can view bill attachments in split view. So let me show you this one. This one's pretty exciting. And this is a little teaser in some of the new filtering, the new functionality that they've been working on. So if I come over here and I go, first thing I have to do is I want to go up to my name and go to my preferences. And I'm going to find split. And you'll see it says personalize split view, enable split view, and show split view. And I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to come down to accounts payable, go to bills, and I'm going to view my Boston Properties bill. And my attachment shows up here, it's split views. So that's pretty exciting. That's a nice new functionality. All right, early adopters. So we've been talking about this for a number of releases. We're hoping that it will come out in release 4, the AP automation, which allows you to upload your bills, has it use OCR to capture data, uses AI to create a draft bill, and automatically attaches your vendor invoice as a PDF and leverages GL Outlier to report exceptions. So hopefully that will be coming soon. And we have another polling question. What field was added to payment provider tab when specific fields of vendor information do not match between CSI and Intacct? And that was supposed to say to help when specific. So this is if you've already really read the release notes, you might know the answer to this.
Okay, we got lots of answers coming in. I'll wait just a little bit more. Okay, closing the poll in 3, 2, 1.
All right. So the answer is they have added discrepancies to the vendor information tab. So this release, they've made a lot of improvements to CSI. If you're using CSI, they've added functionality for resending a vendor self-enrollment emails, resending remit emails, and note that you can use bulk action to submit many emails at one time. They are the block and you can now block and refund a virtual card within the posted payment. There's visibility into information discrepancies, as the question asked, and then the payment notification ID is now passed on the payment request. And accounts receivable. Accounts receivable, they've made receive payment enhancements. So I was going to show you this. Essentially what it's doing is if I'm in, go to accounts receivable and I receive payment new and I add a receive payment and I select Armanino Consulting. I say how much they've provided. Oops, it's supposed to be 5,000. Sorry about that. And I show my invoices. So now it's going to pull up the list of all of your invoices. You can put filters on here, but if I select all of them and I add and close, it will appear down here for payment. And then I do have a credit to apply here of 1,500, and I can post my payment. Oh, except that I've got a problem there. So we're going to leave that. Oh, wait a minute. I made a mistake. All right. So back to the regularly scheduled program. The last thing in accounts receivable is that the custom statement date is now available. So when you go to print and email statements, there's a statement date that you can populate, and that merge field is also available for printed document template. And cash management, over to you, Jenny.
Thank you. All right, so within the cash management release, you will be able to create a creation rule that will automatically create credit card transactions that will help save time during reconciliation. So currently, the dimensions that are supported are department and location in transactions. You can look forward to custom dimensions supported in the future releases, and then it will always post in posted state and will include a payee field to add vendor paid. And then going forward, journal entry transaction templates and credit card transaction templates will require an ID field. So let's go ahead and show that. All right, so we're going to go to dashboards, go to cash management, go to the setup tab, and then we're going to go down to credit card transactions. We have a couple examples listed here. So go ahead and edit or view. So we have an ID, which I mentioned before. That's a new required field with the name associated with it. You will put in your account information here with the 2 dimensions of department and location. And then in the top section, we have the payee field if you want to include that. Then we go into setting the rule. So if you go to cash management, go to rule under setup and edit on one of these. We're going to be assigning that transaction template to the rule set. So we have the type, which is create rule, HP computers, provided filters down below. So if the transaction type is a debit, description includes HP, the posting date is greater than 7/31. We want you to use this transaction type of credit card transaction at the bottom, and then we've assigned it a transaction template. So this is a pretty exciting release. Okay.
Yeah, that's really exciting. It makes entry a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we go into construction. So this is around construction contracts. So construction is a required subscription in order to take advantage of this. You will have the ability now to duplicate construction project contracts in the entirety or duplicate a single project contract line. And then you'll have the option to import in construction project contracts. So that's including the contract lines and the corresponding entries with the new import template. So here on the left, we're showing where you can import in the templates and also how you can duplicate. All right. Within the construction module, we have the primary document workflow. So this is related to change orders and the original order. So before the release, only could link downstream documents converted from the original purchasing transaction definition that are marked as primary document. And then after setting the primary document option on that transaction definition, with this new release, the link downstream documents created before the primary document option was set on the transaction definition. So this is good for any cutover templates or cutover items that you'll be bringing in. All right. We have new account group and categories for construction. So this will be available for services quick start template to facilitate better reporting for construction. So we put in a sample here on the left side of what's going to be new in this release.
This is really exciting, Jenny, because I know that construction was in beta and it's been kind of a new product. And this is really going to up their game and the ability to report on information in their module. So it's great.
Yep. Then we go into reporting. So within ICRW and IBE functions, it'll be easier to create custom calculation columns for comparative analysis of specified time periods. So on the left-hand side, you see the entry date, calendar, year, quarter, month, week, day. This is going to help with comparative analysis. And then what's new also for ICRW and IBE reporting area is for construction. So the object project contract line detail is going to be available to enhance reporting of construction project requirements. So pretty exciting here.
That is exciting. And period rolling, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
And then the custom report writer. So some objects that are going to be available are the AP Advance, which will provide header information, and AP Advanced Detail, which will provide the detail and header information. And then for construction, you'll have the project contract and timesheet entry construction objects available for reporting. So I think with a lot of the prior construction clients that we've had, reporting is something that they've been looking for. So this is pretty exciting as part of the release.
Yeah. All right, contracts. So in the previous release, they gave you the ability to create policies. Policies. This release, you can schedule the grouping of invoices, and you can schedule the policy so that it runs overnight. And then in the morning, you still need to go and generate it, but it happens faster. So it allows you to create various policies for running your invoices, which is really exciting. And then also for contracts, in the last release, they gave you the ability for evergreen contracts. In this release, they've extended that to converting a previously termed contract to evergreen prior to the renewal date. So termed means that the renewed child contract will have a start date and an end date. An evergreen contract, the renewed child contract will have no end date. An child evergreen contract will use evergreen revenue template if termed contract has bill in advance. It cannot be renewed to an evergreen contract, and only contract lines where the bill method is fixed price and the flat fixed amount frequency is included in every invoice can be renewed to evergreen. So contract lines without these settings will end when the term contract ends. And then you can choose how to handle open revenue data before the MEA allocation. So this is this is trying to help you reconcile now open unposted revenue schedules before a new MEA allocation effective date must be posted or have its scheduled posting date changed before the new MEA allocation can be saved. And there are two places that you can set that. You can set it as a company default in configure revenue management, and you can choose it to be different for your specific MEA allocation scheme. They've standardized the MEA allocation adjustments to quantity-based revenue schedules. What this is it automatically posts an adjustment entry that reverses the previously recognized revenue amount for the revenue schedule, and it creates a scheduled entry for the newly allocated amount and automatically posts it. Note that the benefit here, why this is exciting, is previously it would just collapse it all together and it would net it and you couldn't see the detail. So this is exciting for people who've got contracts. And same as construction, they made a lot of advancements for reporting contracts. So they've added new account groups and categories listed here. And these are in the services quick start template. Platform and customization services. Our next polling question. What is a powerful way to automate tasks by making automatic calls to applications in response to data changes? Using smart events, platform triggers, smart rules, or custom fields?
Okay, just a few, I'll leave this open for just a few more moments for those that want to answer.
We all want our CPE.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and close in 3, 2, 1.
All right. So most of you did not get it right. The answer is platform triggers. Jenny, go ahead.
Yep. So platform triggers are a powerful way that will automate tasks, just as the polling question had asked. They'll make the automatic calls to the application in response to any data changes that you have. When you have a regular event related to changing object records, you can add the event to your application in the form of a trigger. So what makes this different than smart events? Triggers can offer you the ability to update line items based on an index, which smart events cannot do. You can use triggers with both standard and custom objects to automate your tasks, and then you can create up to 30 triggers per standard object, as many triggers per custom object as you require. That includes any one-to-one relationships. So pretty cool on this one.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, then we go into order entry, purchasing, and inventory. So I'm excited about this. So tracking details. So this will include any serial tracking, lot number, and expiration dates for your printed sales invoices and return documents. So you're going to see those listed below for custom documents. Bin details are not going to be included in this because they are more of an internal reference for your warehouse operations and not really used for customers. So the other tracking detail information will be available except bin details.
Awesome. Hey, Jenny, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but a question came across about platform triggers. First question is it an add-on? The answer is no.
No.
And provide an example where trigger would be used. I believe that's in you're using platform services, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're building applications using triggers.
Yeah,
So,
we can also follow up with that too, because I don't have an example off the top of my head, but we'll come back to that and respond to you, Brian, on that.
Awesome. Sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
That's okay. All right, so in the inventory module, they made some enhancements to cycle count. So now you'll be able to update the quantity on hand of the items in account that will to reassess its scope. So between the time that you create a count and start the count, some activity is going to occur to the quantity on hand for the items in account. And so you'll be able to update your quantity on hand before you actually start a cycle count. Then they made some format changes for the inventory configuration. So the enable advanced workflow has been moved from the bottom to the top. The transaction sequence for recalculating average cost items has been moved, and journal for your prior period COGS adjustments. If you look on the right side, it's been moved closer to the MIV costing updates, and then landed cost has moved. So they're all going to be available. They just will be looking different than before.
You're just going to have to go find them.
Yep. All right, so some updates to subtotals. So you can distribute entity level subtotals with simple tax. So this is going to allow you to distribute the subtotals for transactions that are created at the entity level and will be distributed to the line items in the transactions. Then populate subtotal dimensions. So in a multi-entity environment, you'll be able to set dimension values for the subtotals at the top level. Previously, this could only happen at the entity level. So a nice update. All right, then we move into the early adopter fulfillment. So we've brought this up. I think this is the second release with the fulfillment, but hopefully this will be pushed out to all of our users. But now it is still an early adopter. And this is just some enhancements around track and ship, pick and pack lists, allocating quantities on orders and committing quantities during the order entry steps. So,
And one call out on that, on early adopter, when you guys see early adopter on our webinars, or if you see it in the release notes, if you're interested in being involved in the early adopter program, I highly recommend you reach out to your client manager and see if we can get you into that program so that you can help build the product and really get advantage of it before everybody else.
all right, so then some inventory item enhancements. So you'll see on items some behavior and label changes on the inquiry tab, which is like this on hold on order and what that's going to look like. The replenishment label changes on the general tab. So if you are using replenishment, it's going to look a little bit different. Then columns for importing items enabled for landed cost distribution, which this is huge for anyone who's using landed cost and having to update using the API. So being able to import the updates will be really nice going forward.
All right, nonprofit, where my heart lies. So if you are a diocesan organization, Intacct has added Sage Intacct Mateo. They purchased the Mateo product, and it is a new application for diocesan organizations to support your savings and loan programs for parishes and schools. So it has a savings module, a loans module, and an admin module, and it works seamlessly with Sage Intacct. So if you're interested in that, contact your client manager and they can get you more information. Dashboards. Polling question number 5. I think this is our last one, guys. I promise. Are you currently using dashboards as a home page in Sage Intacct?
Okay, I'll leave the polling question open for just a few more moments.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah.
For those of you who are not using dashboards, I promise they're not hard to use. I was afraid of them when I used it. I didn't share when I started that I did use Sage Intacct as a user for 5 years. So, okay. So no, you are not. So let me show you a little bit about that. First of all, in this release for their new role-based dashboards, the dashboards are built with the data you need for your role, or at least a start of it. They're customizable and available to all users based on permissions, and they're available for download in the dashboard library. Now note, available companies using general and quick starts, general and nonprofit quick start, it's available. It is not available yet for service quick starts, but you guys got all the new account groups and things. So let's go in here and let's go to dashboards. And I want to show you where the dashboard library is, first of all. So up here, if you haven't seen this before, there is a dashboard library. And here you can download these dashboards. So in order to install one, you would just select install, name it as you wish, and then save it. I've already done that, so I won't do that here. And then my role-based dashboard. So first of all, I don't know if you guys realize that in your My Dashboards, you may have a whole bunch of everybody else's dashboards. You can do a view. So I created a view here so that I could see only my dashboards. And if I go into one, oops, no, 10 years, I still make that mistake. Uh-oh, view. Why am I not seeing it? Let's try something different. Let's go to dashboards. Okay, so maybe it doesn't work like that. Role-based dashboard, AP manager, view components. Sorry about that. All right. So here is your AP manager dashboard. It has accounts payable, balances. They made us start at this. You can always add more or take things away. Here's the AP manager, the AR manager. So it has revenue, it has your top 10 balances, top 10 customers by revenue, your AR graphs. CFO may want to see what the cash is today or their current budget to actual. Controller, where you here on the left hand side, you can see that they can actually have, there's actionable actions here, so they can approve journal entries, approve purchaser orders, approve it. It hyperlinks them to those screens. So this is where you could set this up as your home screen. Here's the department manager revenue, and one final one, support. Now, where do you set that up? So if you go to your preferences again, if I go to my preferences, and I scroll down to personalized appearance, I can say I want to have it be a dashboard, and maybe I want to see the CFO dashboard when I log in. Now, what that will do is next time I log in, it will land me on my CFO dashboard. So that's kind of exciting. It just makes your life a little bit easier for everybody. And also in this release, Intacct has released a new subscription-based dashboard set. It is SaaS Intelligence. So it's a fully automated SaaS metrics tracking system built on Sage Intacct platform. It includes reports and visualizations that show contextual data about what's going on with your customer base. And it includes 7 dashboards: growth, retention, ARR, unit economics, cash, audit, and product. If you are interested in getting these dashboards, you would want to reach out to your client manager. All right, general ledger. General ledger for dynamic allocation. This idea came from you guys. I don't know if you all know that when you go into community and you add ideas or you vote on ideas, that definitely drives where they how quickly they put things on the roadmap. So per dimension allocations, you can now allocate your dimension allocations based on employee and projects. This is exciting because previously you had to use statistical accounts for things like headcount. You can set up the allocation definition, source and basis options to use all values or a dimension group based on your filter selection. And it performs an individual allocation per dimension within that dimension selection. So you don't have to set up as many dimension allocations any longer. They've also expanded the use of allocations for restricted users. So if you are an entity restricted user, you only have access to certain companies within your instance, you can now create and edit allocation definitions with the following limitations. So dimension treatment. So if you are limited to only whether dimension is within one entity or crosses several entities, the restricted user will can only select the locations within their entities. And then source and destination, only entities or locations which you have permission to are available for your selection. Tax, over to you, Jenny.
All right, so we have some updates on Avalara AvaTax. So you'll have the ability to change your company code. Administrators are the users that have the ability to change and update the assigned Avalara company code for an entity. And then there's some steps below to ensure there's no issues when you're changing the company code because it could have impact on the following items. So editing a transaction that's created under the old company creates a new duplicate transaction in Avalara under the new company. Deleting a transaction created under the old company does not delete or void the transaction in Avalara. And then to avoid these issues, we recommend changing the company code after you've closed the books and users are unlikely to edit or void transactions under the old company. And then it will support custom fields going forward.
Okay.
And then Canadian input tax credit. So reclaim taxes for purchases that are made under ITC rules with partial exemption. So with this update, companies with Canadian entities can easily portion out the exempt portion of the tax expenditure. And then how this will work is you'll enter in a bill in the purchasing module and mark line items as eligible for ITC, and Intacct handles the following details of managing the ITC. So down below you see that there's an item ID that's selected. We have it checked as ITC, and it's going to manage it from there for you. All right. Updates to tax solutions. So set default tax solutions on your customer or vendor to be used when creating transactions. Updates that are made for multi-tax companies and tax solutions. They have some improvements and updates for VAT and GST standard tax solutions. And then for United Kingdom VAT tax solutions specifically, Intacct will revert to the standard 20% VAT rate for the UK hospitality sector.
All right, user experience. So Intacct has released new pages. As we've all seen, Intacct has a new feel of their, I can't think of the word, but that's okay. So they've got new page tours, and this is really going to be beneficial for new users. So the page tours describe the key concepts for each page and provide a link to short videos that demo the applicable task and links to new basic help topics that have essential task information targeted to new users. Currently, it's only available on accounts payable bill and accounts payable pay bills. So they are starting to roll these out. I'm sure that this is going to be a more to come, but let me show you where you would find that. So if you go into accounts payable and you go to bills and you add a bill, that didn't just show up where it was supposed to show. Try that one more time. Well, it was working earlier today, but normally there's a little screen right here. Let's see if it's up here. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's because I had already tagged on it, so it went away. So normally there's a little button up here that says bill page or bill tour. So if I start it, it walks you through what's going in each of the boxes, which I think is kind of nice if you're a brand new user.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. I'm pretty excited about it, actually. And I'm assuming everyone knows that there's a wonderful help on this page. Their help system, I think their help user guide is really good. And if you go to help and support and help on this page, it will give you descriptions of questions you might have for that page. I know I used that a lot when I was trying to do adjustments, whether it was a debit or a credit always confuses me. All right, and then coming soon, I know we talked about this for a few releases, hopefully it will come soon, but we're starting to see some examples of this, but the future and list for beta testing. So in your list, you will have advanced filtering ability, the ability to reorder, resize, freeze columns, drag and drop interactions. There will be no need to go to another screen because of the to customize the list view. It'll be right there, and then you'll do split screens. There was a question about split screens, so I wanted to answer that question. The question was they couldn't see, they went, set it up, and they didn't see it. That is because it is only available for PDFs. So if I come back here and I go to my list of bills, you probably had this happen. So, oops, wrong one. Going to accounts payable and bills. If I try to see this one, Lenovo right here, if I view it, it doesn't, oh, it came up with the list screen. This must be a PDF. I must have attached a PDF after because I was, but if it is not a PDF, it will not show up. I fell into that when I was getting ready for this. I hope that answers your question. All right, and then we wanted to just touch on a couple of integrations that Armanino is offering. So for those of you who are using Wells Fargo Payment Manager, you realize that on July 14th of this year, Intacct ceased its relationship with Wells Fargo. Well, Armanino's integration team jumped in and built a new integration from Sage Intacct to Wells Fargo. if you are interested in that, please reach out to us. We're happy to help. And I'm hopeful that we will get to be announcing that we'll be doing more banks as in the coming days or months. Also, we have, for those of you who don't know, we have a team of folks that are very educated in Salesforce, and we have an integration to Salesforce that adds on to what Intacct has in its base functionality. Sage Transform 2022, we hope we are going to see all of you on October 10th to the 14th for the Sage Transform, which is Intacct's user conference. We will be hosting an event, so please let us know if you are coming, and I certainly hope you you join. I know I've joined for, I think this will be my 10th year. Five of those years I was a user, and I know I always learned something at it. And finally, a shameless plug for our Armanino-led Intacct virtual classes, the Academy. We hope that you are all using the Academy. There is a link right here to see the classes that we are offering. And that's all we have for today. Do we have any questions? Oh, we said, how does split screen work when you have multiple PDFs? I don't know that answer. I would have to test that. Are there any other questions anyone has? Is there any, do you know if the freeze panes are planned for the dashboards though? I don't know that. You mean so that when you go into the dashboard, I think what you're asking is when you go into a dashboard, I know I have a good example here. So if I go to my dashboard and I go to my project dashboard, I think what you're asking is, that's gonna take a second to come in, but you're asking if there may be a freeze pane here. So the idea of the freeze pane is that I'd be able to freeze this first column and then scroll over and see other information on that report. I don't know that question. Okay, so we're getting more questions in chat, I'm hearing. All right, so the webinar, I'm looking, does anybody else see any?
There's one, but they have to access to all entities. I'm not sure what the question is.
Where do you find that, Jenny?
In the open questions from Stephanie.
But do they have access to all entities?
Oh, it looks like that was a previous question that she
It
had.
was, and it was probably at, let me think here, what would you be asking about? Stephanie, if you want to add more color to that question, I'm happy to answer it. Oh, okay, so it's related to another question, but I can't see. How do I see? Here we go. All right, so Stephanie asked, is
split view is currently only available in AP module? Is that what she's?
No, is that just approved payments or approved bills? You already were able to approve bills as an employee user. They released that a little while ago. Now all users can approve payments. I think in all truth, Intacct got tired of talking to everybody about having to give discounted business users for just payment approvals. So that's pretty exciting. Would the creations be available via API with platform for Concur? The credit card transaction creation is for credit cards set up on bank feeds. And I don't think Concur goes through bank feeds.
No, usually you reconcile in Concur and then it comes over as like a bill or something.
Okay. On the vendor card, there's a place where you can add a default expense account. Is there a plan to add a default department to the vendor card? I don't know there is. However, do you know that you can set up dimension relationships? So let's go to the vendor card. Accounts payable and vendors, and I'll show everyone what we're talking about here. So if I pull up Boston Properties and I view Boston Properties, maybe. And okay.
Oh, go back.
Don't we all like the new errors, by the way? It doesn't like my new error. It doesn't like today. All right, let's try this one more time. I will edit Boston Properties. It's thinking, it's moving slowly. And first thing is you have your,
Department at the bottom, I think is what you're showing.
this is my department, so I can set up a dimension relationship so that every time I select that vendor, it will populate with product. This dimension relationship is set up so I can override it. And I'll demonstrate that for you for a minute, but the account number, just in case people don't know, there is a default expense account number. So this default expense right here in the additional information.
And that only works for AP.
AP. So in purchasing, however, you can set up dimension relationships between the item and a GL account. So I just did that for a client recently. So if I add a bill and I select Boston Properties, you'll see that the GL account populated, as did the department. Now this is because of the way I've set it up. I can change this. And then I could change my account number also, but it just helps keep people in there. I keep their guardrails on is what I like to say. All right, we have any other questions? Oh, and is the split screen available in purchasing? Not yet. I think they're refining the split screen concept because I know it has to do partially with the list. And then it's a matter of which pages they'll be updating at a time. Any other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, we can end and give you guys 8 minutes back to your day.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate everybody. I hope that you learn something and that you get some benefits out of these new releases. One thing I did want to point out, it isn't a mystery, but Intacct actually does a pretty crazy job of putting this on your screen everywhere. But just so you know, if you need to go back in the release notes, a couple things to know is the release calendar is here. So if you want to know when the releases will happen, because I know sometimes releases happen, you come in on Monday morning and everything's changed. So you might take note of the release notes or release dates. And the other thing is that previous release notes are here.
Michelle, also a good idea is to check the idea on the community.
Yeah.
There was some questions about maybe future releases. Sometimes you can go look on the ideas to see, if people have submitted the idea and if a lot of people have voted on the idea, whether or not it might come through on a future release.
So for those of you who are using community, which you should be, where's community? Here it is. If I log into community, maybe, there we go. Jenny, what's the fastest way? How do you?
Right here, there's view all ideas.
There we
So
go.
you can search for your ideas there or an idea here.
You can post an idea and vote for an idea. So if I wanted the ability to merge records, which we all want, if I click on here, I can
just vote.
Where is it?
It's right on the little arrow.
Thank you.
That should give you the option to vote on that.
I don't know why it's not voting.
Nope. Maybe you voted on it before.
I probably have voted on it before.
Yeah.
It doesn't let you cheat, apparently. But I think this is a great place. So if you have ideas, I saw some great ideas in here. If you guys have ideas, put them in here and send notes out to everybody and say, vote on this. I think it's a great, they definitely reviewed that, if you notice in our deck, how many things said, how many things noted that they were, found by you. So If you look right there. So we got this on all of them that came from you from the Intacct community. So, all
And then
right. Yes.
Michelle and Jenny, there's one more question in the chat
Okay.
asking if the Cash Pro integration question was answered. Mentioned they might have missed it. I think it was. I'm
No,
trying
it
to
has,
reach
I
for.
don't know that it's been released to everybody. I'm not
Okay.
sure of that.
So it still might be in beta testing.
It still might be
That's
in beta
possible.
testing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's one that they would sign up for on the screen when you go to set up your banking cloud. And so if they put in their information, they should be notified when something's been released.
There we go. All right.
Great.
Wonderful.
Michelle, Jenny, thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to Jessica Wirtz, who's in the background answering questions for everybody as well. So thank you, Jessica. If we did not get to your question, we will certainly reach out to you personally and make sure you have an answer for that. But thank you everyone for attending today. And hopefully you can take a moment to fill the survey out on how we did and how we can improve for the future.
Appreciate all of you.
Thank you
Have
so
an
much.
amazing day.